Listen to it fizz. All right, so what happened? If you're following along, the last video I mentioned the audio preamp, which is the AVC, had wrong voltages on it. So I started following around in the circuitry, and then I switched. I noticed that they wanted me to put the switch in this switch here. Let's see, it's in the frame. Output level. Oh, I take that back. This is a output level, CW, and AVC. Well, anyway, when you put it in output level, then this knob here works. CW, it's something else. So anyway, I put it in that position, and I noticed the plate of the tube, the pin, it dropped in voltage, and I had already followed through on this output level knob and got that to work voltage wise with my meter. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay. So I get out my buzz it, and this is my buzz it. All right, this puts out a bunch of noises. It's got 2 coils in it, and it's an old ICO circuit. You know, my modern version of an old ICO circuit. Now, so what you would get with this, before the antenna and all that started working, I put this in, this on. Let me turn the gain down. All right, so what you would get is this is the output. That's the output of the preamplifier, and now that's the preamplifier working. And if you change this, it should, yeah. And then when you go up, it still continues to work on the CW and the AVC, which it should. But I got the voltages to where I wanted them to be. It still wasn't working. And this is one of those things. When I first got this radio, I powered it up tube-wise, all the tubes, 20 minutes to make sure the tubes all lit. Now, they're metal tubes. Here it is. This is a brand new RCA 12SJ7. I made sure all the tubes at least warmed up. So you got a socket and all the voltages are right. You put a signal into it and it doesn't come out. Well, tube's bad. Heater's gone. The heater just decided to go bad in the interim of repairing something else. But this is a brand new tube. This radio, the only dust on it is from where it was stored. Inside's very clean, and there are capacitors bad. And as you heard, I have RF noise going all the way through the radio. Now that you can test, and I'll tell you something. All right, here we put the filament voltage on. We put the high voltage in, and we got to make sure that we put our gains up. All right, now from the antenna, so we have a free path, and some of these knobs need to be cleaned. Would be the wafer switches. All right, let's see if we can get it to come on again. Okay, so you get rushy noise and on all the bands, but you don't get any stations. And when you put the signal generator on the antenna, it works. What that's telling you is you got a good RF path all the way from the antenna to the IF cans and to the detector and to the audio stage. What you might be missing in this case is I swapped the tube. I might be missing the local oscillator. When I thought this tube was bad, I stole a tube from another section. I was pretty sure it was the BFO, but I might be wrong. It was back behind this can here, so it could be the. I have no local oscillator. That's why I'm not getting any stations. But you can be fooled by a radio that makes hissing noises. You put the antenna on and off, and the hissing noise goes away, but you don't get a station, and that's because it's coming in strictly as RF. It's not being beat frequencied. It's not being converted. The other word is superhet. It's not being. It's not. The oscillator is not mixing with the incoming signal to produce the IF. You just got RF coming in. But I just wanted to show you. I went out of my way to put the tubes on for a while to make sure, and I felt to make sure they're all hot, and then that's how it works with a tube. Sometimes a tube, when we were testing in RCA, a tube would just go bad. And what's really funny was not 6SG7, something like that. It sounded like 6SG7, and we had rack after rack after rack of them. And no, it was 6 GK5. Well, anyway, they were IF tubes in RCA. We had racks of them going. 6 GH8s? That sounds right. Had a whole building, 6 GH8s. RCA had a whole building just to make them. And in their TV sets, they used them everywhere to cut cost. And they couldn't make them right. They just junk. And we had racks of these things. And you would do, at the end of each rack was a light bulb. And the tubes would cycle on and off. And as they would go off and then come back on, as they were heating up, what did I say, 6SG7? I think I'm no. 6. Well, anyway, the tubes would short from heater to cathode, and this light bulb would come on and tell you there was a short somewhere on the rack. Well, you go running down there, and it would go back off. There's no way you're going to find that particular tube in a rack of, say, 1,000 tubes. But Toron could do it, and he showed me how to do it. You run down there, and you with your hand, you unplug each tube. And then what will happen is you unplug it, then you put it back in, and you'll see the light come on. And that's telling you that tube is heating up, it's shorting out. Now, there might have been more than one light bulb on each rack, but he could do it. And then one day he showed me, because he never liked to show anybody what he did, because he used to say, job security, job security. And he was a lead tech. And he would show you certain things, but certain things he wouldn't show you, because he wanted to be job security, all right? So he showed me, he goes, yeah, he had a way of, there's a way of throwing the switches. I know what it was. You could shut one rack off at a time, one shelf on it, and you find that shelf, as it's heating up, when the light bulb goes on. So now you know what's in there. It's like playing sink to ship. And then finally you're down to one rack of 10 tubes. And you start, one by one, you unplug it with your hand, and they're hot. And then you put it back in. And as it's heating back up, it'll short out. Then you write the tube up, you take it over to the girl. Every tube had numbers written on the side of it in China marker. That's what they called it. It was like a porcelain marker. And it came with this cream. And you would write on the tube. And then when the tube, it would dry. When the tube got hot, it would bake it onto the glass. So it was really hard to get that stuff off. But anyway, you'd give it to the girl. She'd look it up, and they'd order you 10 more tubes. I'm not kidding you. Every time a tube failed, one tube out of 10 failed, they'd send you 10 more to test. And they knew all along, 6 GH8s? 6 GH8s. Yeah, I think that's what it was. They were used in I believe they were used in the RF amp and the tuner, the IFs, some of the audio sections, some of the color, and it was a terrible tube. And if you mention that, they would mention the building that was just for that one tube. And this was a great idea. If you got 12 tubes in a TV set and you can replace 6 of them with that same tube number, that's a big breakthrough. And then you figure out how to make the tube cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and that it causes you to make more and more profit. But it was funny, like I said, I went out of my way to test the tubes here. I actually put them on and let them get warm, because a lot of these metal tubes, they do go bad, but rarely, and they get really cool symptoms. I have one that after it's on a half hour, all of a sudden you just hear it's like the filament opens up, and the signal just slowly fades out. Within like 12 seconds, it's the filament is opened up. And then you unplug the tube, you let it cool down a little bit, you plug it back in, and it might be 20 minutes again before the filament gets hot enough to disconnect itself. And a lot of times it's where it's soldered in through the bottom here. You could touch these up with a soldering iron, and you'll fix it that way. And this could be one of those cases. In other words, when they dip solder these things, it doesn't always take. But this is a brand new tube, and this radio has never seen electricity before until I put it in it. And it's got bad tubes, bad capacitors just sitting there. But I'm pretty sure I took the tube out to put in the audio section, 6S K7, 6SJ7. I'm pretty sure on the circuit, I think it's an oscillator, but it might be the BFO, because it is up on the top of this can. So I have to check the local oscillator and make sure it's running on this set. Now this set's probably got other capacitors that are leaky, but at least now I have a signal going through the entire radio. Now it's like I'm not ordering any more radios. But in other words, you get this radio to the point where you've done a resurrection, and then do I take the knobs off and clean the knobs and put them back on? And, there's things that the other person does first. I do them last. I don't like to work on any radio until it's working, as far as cosmetics, because you might find a bad transformer and you can't get it. So why waste time with the Windex and all that work? But there are people, that's the first thing they do, is they clean the radio so it'll look good when it's up in the closet. I think that's it. All right, that's it. Shh, RF noise.